So here is B, and I also call her Beatrice, and we are I'm doing my prep just right before I come down to the center line. So I had to do a little bit of a correction there as she wants to kind of drift. She can be a little bit barn sour every now and then, and just wanted to be like, hey, no. Making sure I get straight down the center line. Preparing for our left turn. And she was in the open prelim as well, but a different division. She was in the open prelim B. So come across the diagonal there for the lengthen trot. And then preparing for the leg yield. She's pretty soft about moving sideways, which is quite nice. But then, you have to take that because she can be so sensitive. You have to be mindful of all the positioning that you have to do, making sure she's straight. Coming into our halt here. And I've had to adjust her a little bit. She could be very defensive about doing a rein back, and you could see she bumped off the contact a little bit, which I mainly was just using my seat and leg to tell her to back up. But she kind of wanted to dip low, so I was working on keeping her up. But I was actually quite pleased because she stayed in a good mentality for the rein back. So that leg yield was pretty good as well. And now going into our stretchy trot. She really does enjoy the stretch. And she could go maybe a little bit lower and a little bit out, but overall I was pretty pleased with that. Then it can be a little difficult because you have to shorten up your reins and prepare for that turn. But then she gave me a lovely walk transition. And sometimes she can get a little, again, bumpy in the contact at the walk. So just making sure the contact is steady and following her mouth. And then I'm also going to make sure that I'm asking her to step on forward. So this is just the free walk, but she has a lovely overstep. It's very active. She typically scores very high on her walk. And then she's a really good girl because she stays with me in my medium and then goes right into the trot transition. And then I can prepare and into our canter. And all of this happens pretty quickly because it's kind of like a boom, 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 because then we go right into a lengthen canter, and then we come back to a working canter over the half 20 meter, and then across the diagonal for your counter canter. And she got a little wiggly. She got a little tense here, so I kind of had to hold her together. As you see there, she starts to throw her haunches a smidge. But I was able just to hold her hand a little bit through that. And now go into the lengthen canter again. And then coming back to a working canter. And then again across the diagonal. I'm actually quite pleased though with how her gaits are developing. She's getting a lot stronger. And into our center line. And coming in for our halt. I got maybe a smidge of a wiggle, but overall I was super thrilled with that. And she ended up taking the lead for this division with a score of a 26.4. And now into show jump for her. Again, because I had 3 in prelim and the 2 girls were in the same division, it was kind of pretty quick on, off. So I had done Kaz first, and then she was my second ride. And she likes to kind of take you to the fences a little bit. So I've been working on trying to get her to stay nice and round and steady and not kind of run up underneath you. But there's still a little bit of a work in progress. But she's getting better and better. And she does cruise down this line really well. You can see the longer distances are easier for her than where we have to get in close, but she does jump really well from the pat off the ground. So coming to this, I had to kind of make a hard decision here to add. But she was a good girl, patted the ground, jumped those really well. And it is mainly because in that line, we were off to the left, which made it a longer bending line, so I had to do the 8 instead of 7. And then coming to this, get a pretty good shot to this oxer. Jumps that lovely. And again, let her cruise through the corner here. Ask her to steady. I use my voice a lot. That's why you see her ears kind of coming back. And she jumps the last really well. So very good girl. Still holding on to her lead. And I was really pleased with that round. Now on to cross country. She got a little excited in the countdown there, and then she trotted out of the box. She certainly makes me giggle sometimes. So for her, Ocala can be a little bit more difficult because, again, she's always likes to tell me where the trailers are. But she actually locked on to the first fence pretty well. And kind of the first half of the course, I didn't feel like I had too much say in much of the decisions that were being made. So I'm trying to convince her that I can be a part of the conversation every now and then. So she's a very brave and bold mare. You can see here I might have to work a little bit harder to get her to turn the way I would like to turn. And again, the jumps are no problem. They're super easy. It's always a little bit about the rideability. And she is the greenest of the 3 that I have. But she's coming along really nicely. And she jumps that table beautifully out of stride. And again, it's all about kind of figuring what works for each horse. And she tends to do better when she thinks she gets to make all the decisions. So I just have to be a little bit of the quiet pilot and pick and choose my battles a little bit. And then we come around to this table was quite small. And now coming to the combination up here with the corner and the mound. So I really had to be like, okay, hey girl, let's dial down so I could have a little bit of that control. Jumped over the mound beautifully and was super to the corner. Really pleased with that. And now I'm just letting her cruise. She actually has quite a fast mare because she has such a long stride. You can see she sees her spot to this and then gets a good shot. And I was actually quite pleased with how well she turned coming to this water. I thought for sure she might argue a smidge with me about it, but she was a pretty good girl. And I was quite pleased with how good she was about jumping the mounds too, because our last run here, she's a little bit green about that, but you can see she's learned since. Puts in a nice pat to that big table, but she just makes it feel so little. And now coming to near the end of the course. And again, there were places where I took my time with her. just because I felt like I needed a little bit of that training work that I needed to do with her. So I'm a little bit down on the clock, which, you know, she very easily could have made time and we could have won, but it's more important to get the training in and to have the bigger picture. So now we're coming in to our last couple of fences, and she puts in really good last 2 jumps. And I think I was 12 seconds slow, and she ended up moving into 4th place. So really happy with her round. I thought she did really well.